The great assembly hall of Vertex Prime Station floated in the darkness between stars. Inside, 12 alien species sat in their designated sections, their forms varying from insectoid to gaseous to things that defied simple description. At the center platform stood Ambassador Sora, her hands clasped behind her back, her face calm despite the growing hostility in the chamber. "The human delegation refuses our terms," announced Counselor Vectha, his compound eyes glittering with contempt. The insectoid leader clicked his mandibles together in what his species considered laughter. 50 years you have been part of our coalition. 50 years of our protection, our trade routes, our generosity. And now you dare to refuse a simple request? Sora took a slow breath. She had been Earth's voice to the stars for 15 years. She knew how to stay patient. "Counselor, you call it a simple request. We call it what it truly is. You demand we dismantle our military. You demand we surrender control of our defense to your authority. You demand we become dependent on you for our survival." "You speak as if you have a choice," another counselor hissed from across the chamber. This one resembled a floating jellyfish, its tendrils pulsing with bioluminescent anger. "Every member species has accepted these terms. Every species understands that unity requires sacrifice." "Every species except us," Sora replied. Her voice remained steady, but those who knew her could hear the edge beneath the calm, and perhaps that should tell you something, counselors. Perhaps you should ask yourselves why humanity alone refuses to be disarmed. Vectha rose from his seat, his 6 legs carrying him to the edge of his platform. "Because humans are paranoid. Because humans cling to their weapons like frightened children. Because humans have never truly embraced civilized galactic society." The accusation hung in the air. Sora felt the weight of it, felt the eyes of a dozen species upon her. Back on Earth, billions watched this transmission. In the fleet station near Mars, Admiral Minho watched with growing concern. In the military command center beneath the Swiss mountains, General Taeyang's jaw tightened. "Paranoid," Sora repeated slowly. "Tell me, Counselor, about the pirate raids on our colony at New Jeju. 12 attacks in 3 years. We asked for coalition assistance, none came. We investigated ourselves and found the pirates using coalition military equipment that somehow found its way into criminal hands." Vectha's mandibles clicked dismissively. "Circumstantial. Equipment is stolen all the time." "And the trade sanctions?" Sora continued. "The ones that somehow only affect human merchants? The inspection protocols that delay our ships for weeks while others pass through in hours? The mining rights in the outer territories that were promised to us but given to Counselor Vectha's own hive worlds? Bureaucratic errors," Vectha waved a limb. "Nothing more. 57 bureaucratic errors in the last decade alone." Sora's voice grew harder. "All favoring coalition species. All disadvantaging humanity. And now you want us defenseless. You want us to trust you completely." The chamber erupted in chittering, humming, and various forms of alien outrage. Sora stood unmoved at the center of it all. She had known this moment would come. Humanity had known for years that the coalition saw them as outsiders, as newcomers who needed to be controlled or eliminated. When the noise died down, Vectha spoke again. "You have 30 days, Ambassador. 30 days to accept our terms. Disarm your military. Accept coalition peacekeepers on your worlds. Join the rest of civilized space in true unity. Or face the consequences." "Consequences," Sora said softly. Then louder. "You threaten war, Counselor? We threaten enforcement. There is a difference." "No," Sora replied, and now her patience finally broke through into something sharper, something that made even Vectha pause. "There is not. Let me be absolutely clear. So there is no misunderstanding between our peoples. Humanity sought peace when we joined your coalition. We brought trade, technology, culture, and friendship. We asked only to be treated as equals. Instead, you have tested us, harassed us, and now threaten us." She stepped forward, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, to every world watching across the galaxy. "We have shown restraint. We have sought diplomatic solutions. We have endured insults and provocations that would have driven other species to war. But we will not be enslaved. We will not surrender our ability to defend ourselves. We will not kneel." "You dare," Vectha began. "We dare," Sora cut him off. "Because we must. This is your warning, counselors of the Galactic Coalition. This is your last chance to step back from this path. We do not want war. We never have. But if you force our hand, if you attack us believing we are weak because we have chosen peace, You will learn a truth that predators throughout history have learned too late. And what truth is that? Vectha sneered. That the prey who survives long enough to reach the stars did not do so by being weak. We survived ice ages and plagues. We survived ourselves, our wars, our divisions, our darkest impulses. We unified our world not through conquest but through choice. And we have watched you, learned from you, and prepared for this day even as we hoped it would never come. The chamber had gone silent. Even Vectha seemed momentarily uncertain. 30 days, Sora finished. Use them wisely. Choose peace. Choose to treat us as the equals we are, or choose to learn why humanity has never needed to prove its strength to anyone. The choice is yours. But know this, whatever happens next, you cannot say you were not warned. She turned and walked from the chamber, her steps echoing in the silence. The assembled species watched her go, some with confusion, some with anger, and a very few, with the beginning of fear. Aboard the Earth Defense Force flagship Indomitable, Admiral Minho watched the transmission end. He was a weathered man, his hair more gray than black now, his face marked by decades of service. Beside him stood General Taeyang, his oldest friend and the head of military intelligence. She gave them the warning, Taeyang said quietly. She did, Minho agreed. Now we wait to see if they're smart enough to listen. They won't be, Taeyang replied. The intelligence reports all say the same thing. They think we're bluffing. They think our restraint is weakness. Minho's expression hardened. Then they're going to learn the most expensive lesson in galactic history. He activated his command console. Send the order. All fleets to battle stations. Activate Protocol Nightfall. If they want to see what humans become when pushed beyond reason, we'll show them. Across human space, ships began to move. Crews that had drilled in secret for years prepared for war they had hoped to avoid. Scientists activated weapons that had been developed quietly, waiting for the day they might be needed. And on Earth, in 1,000 cities, people watched the stars and wondered if peace could still be saved. The 30 days began to count down. And in the Coalition Council chambers, Vectha and his fellow counselors made their decision. They would send their peacekeeping fleet to human space. They would teach these upstart apes their place in the galactic order. They would show humanity the consequences of defiance. It was, in every way that mattered, the worst decision they would ever make. The Coalition fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 200 warships, the largest peacekeeping force ever assembled, hung in the darkness near Mars. Their hulls gleamed with the pride of a dozen species who had never known defeat. At their center, Counselor Vectha stood on the bridge of his flagship, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The humans have 45 ships, his tactical officer reported. They are positioned between us and Mars. 45, Vectha repeated with amusement. They must know this is futile. Perhaps they will see reason and surrender before we must fire a single shot. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Minho studied the enemy fleet with tired eyes. He had not slept well in the 30 days since Sora's warning. Each day he had hoped the Coalition would turn back. Each day they had come closer. Now they were here, and the time for hoping had ended. All ships report ready, said Captain Jihi from her position at the tactical station. She was young for a ship commander, barely 30, but her mind worked like a quantum computer when it came to battle tactics. Weapons charged. Drives ready. Crews at battle stations. Sir, the communications officer called out. The Coalition flagship is hailing us. Put it through, Minho ordered. Vectha's insectoid face filled the screen, his compound eyes reflecting the bridge lights. Admiral Minho, I am pleased to see you are not completely foolish. You could have scattered your ships and forced us to hunt you down. Instead, you wait here like a deer before a predator. Counselor, Minho replied, his voice heavy with resignation. You were warned. My government authorized me to tell you one last time. Turn your fleet around. Return to Coalition space. We do not want this war. Want is irrelevant. You defied the Coalition. You must learn your place. Vectha leaned closer to his screen. Surrender your ships. Power down your weapons. Accept Coalition peacekeepers on Mars and Earth. Do this and your people will only face economic sanctions. Refuse and we will take your worlds by force. Minho was quiet for a long moment. On the bridge around him his crew waited. Across the fleet 45 ships and their crews waited. On Earth and Mars and 100 colony worlds billions of humans waited. No, Minho finally said. I will not surrender. But I will tell you something, Counselor. Something I hope you remember in the hours to come. You were warned. We told you what would happen. We begged you to choose peace. You chose this. Remember that." Vectha's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Bold words from a dead man. "You have 2 minutes to power down your weapons." After that, we opened fire. The screen went dark. Minho turned to his crew. They looked back at him, young and old, from Earth and Mars and the colonies between. They had trained for this. They were ready. But he could see the fear in their eyes, the knowledge that they were outnumbered 4-1. "All ships," he said into the fleet-wide channel. "This is Admiral Minho. They think we are weak because we sought peace. They think our restraint was fear. They are about to learn the truth. Today we show them what humanity really is. Today we show them why we never needed to prove ourselves. Execute Protocol Nightfall. Show them what we have been hiding." Across the human fleet, something changed. The ships seemed to shimmer, their hulls distorting in a way that made Coalition sensors scream warnings. Then in an instant they vanished. On Vectha's flagship, chaos erupted. "Where did they go?" he demanded.
"Find them."
"Sensors are confused, Counselor," the tactical officer reported. "We are detecting them everywhere and nowhere. The readings make no sense." Then the human ships reappeared, but not where they had been. They materialized, scattered throughout the Coalition formation, between ships, above them, below them. The perfect formation that had looked so impressive moments before was now full of enemy vessels at point-blank range. "Impossible," Vectha whispered. "Fire," screamed the Coalition tactical officer. "All ships fire at will." The Coalition fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between ships. But the human vessels moved like nothing the Coalition had ever seen. They flickered and jumped, using their quantum drives to shift position faster than targeting computers could track. Coalition ships fired at empty space, or worse, hit their own vessels in the confusion. The human response was precise and devastating. Strange weapons fired from their ships. Not the energy beams the Coalition expected, but focused electromagnetic pulses. Coalition ships went dark, their systems overloaded, their crews helpless as their technology failed around them. Other human weapons punched through Coalition shields as if they were not there, kinetic missiles moving too fast to track. Captain Jihi commanded her destroyer Incheon with cold precision. She had studied every Coalition ship type, knew their weaknesses, their blind spots. Her ship danced through the battle, her weapons taking down enemy vessels one after another. Her targeting was assisted by artificial intelligence far beyond what Coalition computers could match. "Target the flagship," she ordered. "We take Vectha alive." Her crew moved as one. The Incheon flickered through space, appearing directly beside the massive Coalition flagship. Boarding tubes fired, magnetic clamps locked on, and human Marines poured into the enemy ship. They wore powered armor and carried weapons that could punch through bulkheads. More importantly, they moved with a coordination and ferocity that the Coalition crew could not match. In the Indomitable's fighter bay, Yuna and her Wraith squadron launched into the chaos. They flew small, fast ships that twisted through the battle like angry wasps. Their job was to protect the larger vessels and hunt down any Coalition fighters that tried to do the same. Yuna was the best pilot in the fleet, possibly the best pilot humanity had ever produced. Her hands moved over the controls as if the ship was part of her body, dodging fire that should have been impossible to avoid. "Wraith 2, break left," she called over the squadron channel. "Wraith 4, you have 3 bogies on your tail. Hold steady, I'm coming around." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 170 Coalition ships drifted in space, their systems dead, their crews alive but helpless. 20 ships had been destroyed when they tried to self-destruct rather than surrender. The remaining 10 ships fled into faster-than-light travel, running home with news of the disaster. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Minho stood before the main screen where Counselor Vectha now appeared as a prisoner, held by human Marines on his own flagship. The insectoid's confidence had vanished, replaced by something that looked like shock. "You said we were weak," Minho said quietly. "You said our peace was cowardice. You did not understand what you were seeing. For 50 years we watched you. We learned your technology, studied your tactics, and quietly developed weapons and systems you could not imagine. We did this while hoping we would never need to use them. But we were not unprepared. We were patient. You hid your strength, Vecta said, his voice barely audible. We hid nothing. You simply assumed that because we did not boast of our weapons, we had none. That because we sought diplomacy, we could not fight. You mistook wisdom for weakness. Minho leaned forward. Your ships are disabled, not destroyed. Your crews are alive. We could have killed everyone here. We did not. We are sending the disabled ships back to Coalition space with their crews. We are even releasing you, Counselor. Why? Vecta asked. Because we want you to deliver a message. Tell your High Council what happened here. Tell them this was the result of your attack, not ours. Tell them we disabled your fleet when we could have destroyed it. Tell them we still do not want war. But if they continue down this path, if they send more fleets against us, we will not be so merciful next time. Across the galaxy, the battle footage spread like wildfire. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly learned their name. The Coalition, which had seemed invincible for centuries, had been humiliated by a species of upstart apes who had been spacefaring for barely 200 years. In the Coalition High Council chambers, the remaining counselors gathered in emergency session. They watched the footage of their grand fleet being systematically dismantled. They saw their ships disabled, their admiral captured, their pride shattered. We must negotiate, some argued. We must sue for peace. But others, led by Vecta's allies, had different thoughts. They spoke of honor and revenge. They spoke of the danger of letting this defeat stand. They spoke of mobilizing the full military might of 800 worlds. Humanity must be made an example, they declared. They must learn that defying the Coalition brings only destruction. The vote was called. Peace or war. Negotiation or annihilation. War won by a single vote. Far away on the indomitable Admiral Minho received the news. He had hoped the display of strength would be enough. He had hoped that showing the Coalition they could not win easily would make them choose peace. He had been wrong. Sir? Captain Jihi asked quietly. Your orders? Minho looked out at the stars, at the vast darkness that suddenly seemed full of enemies. He thought of his wife on Earth, his grandchildren who would inherit whatever galaxy emerged from the coming storm. Send word to Fleet Command, he said finally. The Coalition has chosen war. We will give them war, but on our terms. Activate all protocols. Recall all ships. Begin Operation Nightfall in full. The restraint was over. Humanity had warned them. Humanity had shown mercy. Now humanity would show them what a species that survived 10,000 years of warfare against itself could do when they truly unleashed their power. The Coalition would learn, but the lesson would be written in fire. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Mars. In those 6 months, the galaxy had learned to fear a name they once dismissed: humanity. The Coalition war machine was vast. 800 worlds contributed ships, soldiers, and resources. They sent fleets that darkened entire star systems when they gathered. They attacked with overwhelming numbers, confident that eventually the humans would run out of ships, out of weapons, out of luck. They were wrong on all counts. 60 star systems had fallen to human forces. 12,000 Coalition ships were destroyed, disabled, or captured. Human losses were measured in hundreds, not thousands. It should not have been possible. But the Coalition was learning that humanity did not fight by the rules they knew. General Tai Yang stood in the war room beneath Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing the entire war. Each star system was marked with colors: blue for human-controlled, red for Coalition, yellow for contested. The map grew bluer every day. We are winning, said one of his officers. At this rate, the Coalition will collapse within a year. We are not winning, Tai Yang replied, his voice hard. We are surviving. They still have 5 times our numbers. They still have resources we cannot match. The moment we slow down, the moment we give them time to adapt, this war becomes much harder. He was right to worry. The Coalition was learning. Their ships now traveled in smaller groups, harder to trap. Their admirals were adapting tactics, becoming more cautious. And they were becoming more desperate. That desperation led to New Jeju. The colony world had been one of humanity's first settlements beyond Earth. 3 million people lived there, most of them farmers and scientists. It had minimal defenses, just enough to protect against pirates or accidents. The Coalition fleet that arrived in orbit numbered 30 ships. They did not land troops. They did not demand surrender. They simply opened fire from orbit, targeting the cities and settlements. Below, Lieutenant Seojin was on leave with his family when the bombardment began. He was a Marine, had fought in a dozen battles in this war, but nothing prepared him for watching his hometown burn from space. He grabbed his children, pulled them into a shelter, held them as the ground shook with impact after impact. When it was over, 3 million had become several thousand. New Jeju was a burned world. Its cities turned to ash, its fields to glass. Seojin survived. His children survived. His wife did not. The footage reached Earth within hours. Admiral Minho watched it in his quarters alone. He had spent his entire career trying to minimize casualties, trying to fight cleanly, trying to show that humans could wage war without becoming monsters. Now he watched cities burning and knew that something had broken. He called General Taiyang. They killed civilians. 3 million people who had nothing to do with this war. I know, Taiyang said. His face on the screen looked older than Minho had ever seen it. The High Command is meeting now. They want your input. I have only one input, Minho replied. No more restraint. No more mercy. They want to see what happens when they take everything from us. We show them. The message went out to every human ship, every Marine unit, every pilot. The rules had changed. Humanity had tried to fight with honor. The coalition had responded by murdering civilians. Now humanity would fight to win by any means necessary. Commander Daehyun led the Pathfinder Division, humanity's most elite special forces. His teams were small, usually just 5 or 6 soldiers, but they could infiltrate anywhere, do anything. Before New Jeju, they had operated under strict rules of engagement. After New Jeju, those rules were removed. We have a new mission, Daehyun told his assembled teams. They gathered in a secure facility on Mars, faces hard, eyes cold. Many had lost friends or family at New Jeju. We are going to show the coalition what happens when they mistake our mercy for weakness. He activated a holographic display. It showed not battle plans but data, 50 years of data, collected during humanity's time in the coalition. Information about every military base, every supply depot, every command center, every admiral's homeworld. This is the Cascade Protocol, Daehyun explained. For 50 years we gathered intelligence. We mapped their entire military infrastructure. Every ship, every station, every secret facility. We told ourselves it was just precaution, just in case. That day has come. The Pathfinder teams deployed across coalition space. They moved in the shadows using captured ships and forged credentials. They hit 200 targets in a single night. Command centers went dark. Supply depots exploded. Communication hubs were sabotaged. But the teams did not just destroy, they left messages. You were warned, the messages said. This is the consequence of killing our innocent. This is what mercy looks like when it dies. Coalition admirals woke to find human soldiers standing in their bedrooms. The soldiers did not kill them. They made them watch recordings of the New Jeju bombardment. They made them listen to the screams, see the children burning. Then they left them alive, shattered, knowing that humanity could have killed them at any moment. Captain Ji Hye commanded a task force hunting coalition fleets. Her tactics had evolved from the clean victories at Mars. Now she fought with a cold precision that terrified enemy crews. She did not just destroy ships, she disabled them, left them drifting, broadcasting messages to all nearby coalition vessels. This ship attacked civilians. These were their orders. The messages included recordings of coalition admirals ordering strikes on human colonies. You follow such orders, you face such ends. Surrender now or share their fate. Some coalition ships surrendered immediately. Others fought to the death. Shai accommodated both choices with equal efficiency. Dr. Hyunwoo worked in a secure research facility, developing new weapons. Before the war, he had been a peaceful man, dedicated to exploration and discovery. New Jeju had changed that. Now he worked 18-hour days, creating systems that could devastate entire fleets. His latest project was a weapon that could shut down every computer system within a light-second radius. He called it the Silence Field. We deploy 3 of these in a system, he explained to Admiral Minho, and every coalition ship becomes a drifting coffin. Life support works, it is mechanical. But weapons, engines, sensors, everything electronic dies. That will save lives, Minho said. It will save our lives, Hyunwoo corrected. I stopped caring about theirs when they burned my sister's family alive. Minho understood. He felt the same darkness growing inside himself. They all did. The humans fighting this war were changing, becoming harder, colder. It frightened him even as he authorized the deployment of the new weapons. The coalition fought back as best they could. They tried to copy human tactics, human weapons. They sent assassins to kill human leaders. They attempted to infiltrate human systems with viruses and sabotage. But they were always one step behind, always reacting instead of acting. Engineer Nari had designed most of humanity's cyber defenses. She was small, quiet, and possessed one of the most brilliant minds of her generation. She watched coalition attempts to hack human systems with something like pity. They think like a hive mind, she explained to her team. Their systems are designed for centralized control. Ours are not. Every human ship, every station, every network is independent but coordinated. They cannot break us because there is no single point of failure. It is how humans have always worked. Organized chaos that somehow produces order. The war raged on. Human forces pushed deeper into coalition space. They did not occupy worlds, they did not have the numbers for that. Instead, they destroyed military targets and moved on. They fought like ghosts, appearing where least expected, hitting hard, vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. Lieutenant Seojin, who had survived New Jeju, led his Marines into battle after battle. He fought with a fury that frightened even his own men. But he did not lose control. He directed his rage at legitimate military targets, never civilians, never innocents. He remembered why he fought: to protect others from feeling what he felt, to ensure no more families burned. 3 months after New Jeju, the coalition attempted another civilian attack. They sent a fleet to bomb human colony at Titan Station, but humanity had learned. Defense platforms destroyed half the fleet before it could fire a shot. The remaining ships surrendered immediately, their crews broadcasting their commander's orders as proof they were just following commands. Admiral Minho watched the attempted attack fail and made a decision. He called Ambassador Sora, who now coordinated diplomatic efforts from a safe location on Earth. "We need to end this," he said, "not just win battles. End it completely. We break them so thoroughly they can never threaten us again. But we need to do it in a way that does not make us the monsters they claim we are." "How do you propose we do that?" Sora asked. "We take their throne world. We capture their High Council. We put them on trial for war crimes. Broadcast it to the entire galaxy. We show everyone what they did, why this war happened, and then we show mercy where they showed none. And if they fight to the last ship to defend their home," Minho's smile was not pleasant, "then we show them why that would be their worst mistake. Prepare your evidence, Ambassador. Gather every recording, every order, every piece of proof that they started this war and escalated it. When we are done, the galaxy will know the truth." The plan was set. Human fleets began to consolidate, preparing for the final push. The coalition, seeing this, prepared their own defense. They called every ship, every soldier, every resource to defend their core worlds. Both sides knew the next battle would decide everything. In his quarters aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Minho wrote a letter to his wife. "I do not know if I will survive what comes next," he wrote. "But I know we are fighting for the right reasons. They pushed us. They killed our people. They left us no choice. If I do not return, tell the children that their grandfather fought to keep them safe. Tell them we were the good ones, even when we had to do terrible things. Tell them we never forgot who we were, even in the darkness." He sealed the letter and prepared for the final campaign. The coalition had chosen war. Now they would see war in its purest, most terrible form, and when it was over, the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The coalition throne world of Praxis hung in space like a jewel. 5 billion beings called it home, representing all 12 species of the coalition. Massive defense stations orbited the planet, hundreds of them each capable of destroying a fleet. The coalition had gathered 5,000 ships to defend their capital. It was the largest military force ever assembled. Against them came 300 human ships. The odds seemed impossible. The coalition commanders watched the human fleet approach and felt something they had not felt in centuries. They felt confident. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Minho studied the defenses. Beside him, Captain Jihi ran calculations, her fingers dancing across tactical displays. General Taeyang's face appeared on the communication screen, transmitted from the command center on Earth. "We could lose everything here," Taeyang said quietly. "If they break our fleet, Earth is exposed. Mars is exposed. Everything we have fought for could end." "They will not break us," Minho replied, "because we are not going to fight them the way they expect. We are not going to throw our ships against their defenses like they want. We are going to do what we have always done. Fight smarter, not harder. The human fleet did not attack the orbital defenses. Instead, they deployed 1,000 small drones, each no larger than a fighter. The drones scattered throughout the system, moving in seemingly random patterns. Coalition commanders watched with confusion as the human ships held position, not advancing, not retreating. What are they doing? Counselor Vectha demanded. He had been released after the Battle of Mars as promised, and now commanded the defense of his homeworld. His mandibles clicked with agitation. Why do they not attack? His tactical officer studied the screens. The drones are doing something to our sensors. We are getting interference across all frequencies. It is like they are jamming us, but the pattern keeps changing. Then Professor Yunji's voice came through on all coalition channels. She was a specialist in understanding alien cultures, and she had volunteered to make this broadcast. People of the coalition, this is Professor Yunji of Earth. For 50 years we have been part of your civilization. In that time we learned about you. We studied your cultures, your histories, your values. We also gathered evidence. On every screen across Praxis, on every coalition ship, images began to appear. Secret orders, communications between coalition leaders, plans that dated back decades. The evidence showed everything. The deliberate harassment of human trade ships, the funding of pirates to attack human colonies, the systematic effort to force humanity into submission. We did not want this war, Yunji continued. But your leaders did. They saw us as a threat because we refused to be controlled. They attacked us, and when we defended ourselves, they escalated. And when they could not defeat our military, they murdered our civilians. 3 million people died at New Jeju. Here are the orders that caused those deaths. The recording played. Coalition Admiral Tivox giving the order. Burn their colonies. Make them afraid. Make them submit. Across Praxis, across the entire coalition, billions watched in shock. Many had not known the truth. They had been told that humanity started the war, that humans were dangerous aggressors. Now they saw their own leaders' crimes broadcast for all to see. Your leaders made these choices, Yunji said. Not you. Not the billions of ordinary beings who just want to live their lives. You are not our enemies. Your leaders are. And now we ask you, do you want to die defending the people who lied to you? Who started a war and hid the truth? Or do you want this to end? On the coalition flagship, chaos erupted. Counselor Vectha screamed orders, trying to block the transmission, but it was too late. The message had gone out across every channel, on every frequency. The truth was out. Then the human fleet attacked, but not at the defenses. The 300 ships split into dozens of smaller groups, each led by a vessel equipped with the new quantum drives. They flickered through space, appearing throughout the system, targeting not the military stations but the propaganda networks, the government buildings, the secret police facilities. It was not an invasion. It was a decapitation strike against the leadership, while leaving the civilian population untouched. Commander Daehyun and his Pathfinder teams led the ground assault. They transported directly into the Coalition High Council chambers. The counselors, gathered in emergency session, found themselves surrounded by human soldiers in powered armor. You are under arrest, Daehyun announced, for war crimes against humanity and against your own people. You will stand trial. The galaxy will see what you did. And then justice will be served. Counselor Vectha rose, his mandibles clicking with fury. You dare? You invade our throne world, our sacred chambers. We dare, Daehyun interrupted. Because you murdered millions. Because you started this war. Because you left us no choice. Now you face the consequences. But Vectha had one last desperate card to play. If you do this, you will never leave this system. I have activated the planet's defense grid. Not the orbital stations, the surface-to-space weapons hidden across every continent. You cannot stop them all. You will die here along with your precious admiral. He was bluffing, or he thought he was. But what Vectha did not know was that Pathfinder teams had spent the last month infiltrating Praxis, mapping every defense system, every weapon, every secret. When he activated the grid, human commandos were already in position. Lieutenant Seojin led one such team. They had inserted into a military base 3 weeks earlier, disguised as maintenance workers. Now they moved through the facility, disabling weapons, sabotaging systems. Seojin felt no pleasure in the work. He felt only the cold determination to end this war so no one else would lose what he had lost. The defense grid activated, but only for a moment. Then system after system went dark, as Pathfinder teams across the planet completed their missions. Of the 1,000 surface-to-space weapons, only 3 managed to fire. 2 missed. 1 struck a human cruiser which survived thanks to enhanced shields. Vectha stared at his console in disbelief. Impossible. Those systems were secret. Only the High Council knew. We knew, Daehyun said. We have known for weeks. Did you really think you could keep secrets from us? We infiltrated your government 50 years ago. We have been inside your systems, your networks, your very chambers. We know everything. It was the truth. Humanity's intelligence services had planted agents, installed backdoors, created listening posts throughout Coalition space decades ago. Not to attack, but to ensure they would never be surprised, never be vulnerable. That paranoia, that preparation, had saved them. Elder Tamora, one of the counselors who had argued for peace, spoke up. If you have this much power, why did you wait? Why let so many die? Ambassador Sora, who had just arrived with a security team, answered, because we did not want to use it. Because we hoped you would choose peace. Because we believed that showing you we could defend ourselves would be enough. We were wrong. You forced us to show you what we are truly capable of. Now you see. Across Praxis, Coalition military units stood down. Some because they heard the truth and refused to fight for leaders who had lied. Others because they saw how completely humanity had infiltrated their defenses. The orbital stations, promised they would not be destroyed if they surrendered, began powering down their weapons, but not everyone surrendered. Counselor Vectha, seeing his world collapsing, made one final desperate move. He pulled a concealed weapon and fired at Ambassador Sora. Time seemed to slow. Daehyun moved, pushing Sora aside. The shot meant for her struck him in the shoulder. His armor held, but the impact threw him back. Before Vectha could fire again, Seojin put 3 rounds through the counselor's weapon, destroying it without killing him. No, Seojin said, his voice like ice. You do not get to die a martyr. You live, you stand trial. You face what you have done. Vectha collapsed, held by human soldiers. Around him, the other counselors were secured. The Coalition High Council, the government that had ruled 800 worlds for centuries, was captured in a single operation. On the Indomitable, Admiral Minho received reports from across the system. Minimal casualties, most Coalition forces surrendering, the capital secured. He felt no triumph, only exhaustion. Sir, Captain Ji Hee said softly, we won. No, Minho replied. We survived. There is a difference. He activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships hold position. No celebrations. No victory declarations. We came here for justice, not conquest. Remember that. But there was one more crisis to face. A Coalition admiral named Tivox, the same one who had ordered the new Jeju bombing, refused to surrender. He commanded a fleet of 300 ships on the outer edge of the system. Now he was bringing that fleet toward Praxis, planning to use banned weapons against both the planet and the human fleet. If I cannot save the Coalition, I will at least take you with me, he broadcast. Praxis will burn. Your fleet will die, and the galaxy will remember that humanity could not protect what it conquered. Yuna and her Wraith Squadron were the first to intercept. They launched from the Indomitable's flight deck, their small, fast ships racing toward the incoming threat. Yuna's hands flew over the controls, her mind calculating angles and vectors faster than computers could process. Wraith Squadron, listen up, she said over the squadron channel. That fleet is carrying planet killers. We cannot let them get within firing range. We hold them here, even if it costs us everything. Her pilots acknowledged. They knew what she was asking. 30 small fighters against 300 warships. The math was impossible. But they flew anyway. They hit the enemy fleet like a swarm of angry insects. Their weapons were not powerful enough to destroy the massive ships, but they targeted sensors, communications, engines. They flew patterns that confused targeting systems, that made the Coalition ships accidentally fire on each other. They bought time. The human fleet raced to catch up, but they were too far away. Yuna's squadron fought alone, and one by one her pilots were shot down. Wraith 3, Wraith 7, Wraith 11. Each loss was a friend, a comrade, someone who had trained with her for years. Finally, only Yuna remained. Her ship was damaged, her weapons nearly depleted, but the Coalition fleet was getting closer to firing. Range. She looked at her fuel reserves, at her last missile, and made a decision. Admiral Minho, she transmitted. This is Wraith Leader. I am going to stop them. Take care of my parents. Tell them I died doing what was right. Yuna, no, Minho began, but she had already cut transmission. She fired her last missile not at the Coalition ships, but at their planet-killer weapon, visible on her sensors as it charged. Then she pointed her fighter at the weapon and pushed her engines to maximum. Her ship accelerated beyond safe limits, beyond survivable limits. The collision destroyed the planet-killer weapon and crippled the flagship carrying it. The explosion was visible across the system. Admiral Tivox died in the blast along with his command crew and his plans for genocide. Yuna survived. Barely. Her fighter's emergency systems ejected her pod just before impact, and a human rescue ship retrieved her unconscious form. She would spend months in medical care, but she would live. When she woke, Admiral Minho was beside her bed. He looked older somehow, more tired. You disobeyed orders, he said. Yes, sir, she replied. You risked your life unnecessarily. Yes, sir. You saved 5 billion lives. Yuna said nothing. Minho placed a hand on her shoulder. Thank you. The war is over. The Coalition is surrendering. And you are a hero. I am just a pilot who did her job, Yuna replied. The real heroes are the ones who did not come back. Minho nodded slowly. He understood. They all did. This was not a glorious victory. It was a necessary one, paid for in blood and sacrifice. The galaxy would never forget what happened here. But more importantly, it would never forget what came next. The trial would begin soon. Justice would be served, and then somehow they would have to build peace from the ashes of war. Admiral Minho stood at the viewport of the Indomitable, looking down at Praxis. The throne world glowed peacefully below, its cities lit like jewels in the darkness. 300 human warships orbited the planet, weapons armed, ready to fire. One word from him and 5 billion beings would die. He had the order in his hand. Earth Command had given him the authorization. After everything the Coalition had done, the harassment, the attacks, the murder of 3 million at New Jeju, he had the legal and moral authority to end the Coalition permanently. To make an example so terrible that no species would ever threaten humanity again. His finger hovered over the command console. One button, one decision. He could end this war absolutely, completely, forever, sir. Captain Jihi stood beside him, her voice quiet. The Council is waiting for your decision. Minho looked at her. She was young, brilliant, and had fought in every major battle of this war. She had earned the right to command her own fleet. She had also seen enough death to last a lifetime. What would you do, Captain? He asked. Jihi was quiet for a long moment. My family came from Seoul generations ago. My grandmother told me stories of the old wars before humanity unified. She said the worst thing about war was not the fighting. It was what we became when we forgot why we fought. We fought to protect. The moment we fight to destroy, we lose something we can never get back. Minho closed his eyes. He thought of his wife, his children, his grandchildren. He thought of the 3 million dead at New Jeju. He thought of every soldier who had died fighting this war. They had not died so humanity could become conquerors. They had died defending their homes. He opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Minho. Stand down from attack positions. We did not come here to destroy. We came here for justice. Now we deliver it. The human ships lowered their weapons. Across the galaxy, billions watched and wondered what would happen next. In the grand chamber that had once housed the Coalition High Council, the trial began. The chamber was broadcast across every world, every station, every ship in the galaxy. Ambassador Sora stood before the accused counselors, no longer as a diplomat, but as the chief prosecutor for humanity. You are charged with war crimes, she announced, with the deliberate targeting of civilian populations, with the initiation of aggressive war, with crimes against humanity and against your own people. How do you plead? Most counselors pleaded guilty immediately. They had seen the evidence, knew there was no defense. But Counselor Vectha stood defiant. I plead not guilty, he declared. We did what was necessary to maintain galactic order. Humanity was a threat to stability. We acted to preserve civilization. Sora played recordings of secret council meetings, conversations where counselors discussed how to force humanity into submission, plans to steal human technology, discussions about using examples to frighten humanity into obedience, and finally the order to bomb New Jeju. Civilian casualties are acceptable, Vectha's own voice said from the recording. Make them afraid. Make them submit. The galaxy watched in horror. This was not maintaining order. This was genocide, Elder Tamora testified next. I argued for peace, he said, his voice heavy with shame. I told them that humanity had done nothing to deserve such treatment. I was outvoted. I was told to be silent. I obeyed, and I will carry that shame for the rest of my life. But I will also tell the truth now. The coalition leadership started this war because they feared a species they could not control. The trial lasted 3 days. When it ended, 12 counselors were found guilty. The sentences were delivered not by humans alone, but by a panel of judges representing multiple species, even some from the coalition worlds themselves. Vectha and 3 others received life imprisonment without possibility of release. They would spend the rest of their lives in a secure facility, alive but powerless. The other counselors received lesser sentences, ranging from 20 to 50 years because they had eventually cooperated and shown remorse. No one was executed. Humanity could have demanded death, but Ambassador Sora made her case clearly. We do not kill prisoners. We do not take revenge. We deliver justice. If we become executioners, we become no better than those who bombed New Jeju. Justice must be merciful, or it is only revenge wearing a mask. Then came the hardest part, building peace. Humanity presented its terms to the remnants of coalition leadership and to each species individually. The terms were harsh but not cruel. The coalition central government would be dissolved. Each species would return to independent governance. War criminals would be tried and punished. Reparations would be paid to human colony survivors. But humanity would not occupy coalition worlds. They would not take territory, resources, or slaves. Instead, they would establish a new governing body, the Galactic Council, with equal representation for all species. And humanity would serve as the peacekeepers, maintaining order until the new system was stable. We do not want an empire, Sora announced to the assembled species representatives. We never did. We wanted only to be left alone to live in peace. But you would not allow that. So now we will ensure peace not just for ourselves, but for everyone. No species will ever again be subjugated by a coalition of the powerful. Every world will have a voice. Every species will have rights. And if anyone tries to return to the old ways, they will face humanity's response. Some species accepted immediately, grateful to be free of coalition control. Others resisted, arguing that humanity was simply replacing one master with another. But when they saw how humans treated the coalition civilians with aid, with rebuilding efforts, with respect, they began to understand. 3 years passed. New Jeju was rebuilt. Where cities had burned, new structures rose. The memorial at the center of the new capital bore the names of all 3 million dead. Admiral Minho attended the dedication ceremony, old now and retired. He walked among the names, touching the stone, remembering. Lieutenant Seojin was there too with his children. They were older now, beginning to heal from the trauma. They had learned their mother's name was inscribed in the memorial, that she would never be forgotten. Did we win, Father? His daughter asked. Seojin looked at the memorial, at the names, at the cost of survival. We survived, little one. That is enough. Captain Jahe, now Admiral Jahe, commanded the Terran Defense Fleet. She oversaw peacekeeping operations across 24 systems, settling disputes, preventing wars before they started. She did not do this alone. Her fleet included ships and crews from 12 species, all working together under human coordination. It is strange, her second-in-command said one day. He was from Praxis, a former coalition officer who had defected during the war. We used to think you were weak. We laughed at your diplomacy, your restraint. Now we understand. You were strong enough not to need to prove it, Jihi smiled. We tried to tell you. You did not listen. General Taeyang established the Galactic Intelligence Network, but unlike the Coalition's secret police, this network was transparent. Its purpose was not to spy on citizens, but to detect threats early, to prevent conflicts before they escalated. Representatives from multiple species worked together, sharing information, building trust. Yuna recovered from her injuries, though she would never fly in combat again. Instead, she became an instructor at the new Galactic Flight Academy. She taught young pilots from every species, human and alien alike, how to fly with precision and courage. Her students called her the hero of Praxis. She insisted she was just a pilot who did her job. Professor Yunji led cultural exchange programs, bringing together species that had been enemies. She helped them understand each other, find common ground, build friendships. It was slow work, but she had always believed that understanding was the foundation of peace. Ambassador Sora became the first Chancellor of the Galactic Council. She had not wanted the position, but the various species had voted overwhelmingly to give it to her. "You showed us justice," they said. "Now show us peace." She served for one 5-year term, establishing the systems and rules that would govern galactic civilization. Then she stepped down, insisting that no human should hold the position permanently. The galaxy needed to learn to govern itself. Admiral Minho lived quietly on Earth in a small house by the sea. He wrote his memoirs, a detailed account of the war and the decisions that had shaped it. He called the book The War We Did Not Want, and dedicated it to the 3 million dead at New Jeju. General Taiyang visited him often. They were old men now, gray and weathered, but their friendship remained strong. They sat on Minho's porch watching the ocean, talking about the old days. "Do you think they will remember?" Taiyang asked one evening. "In 100 years, when we are all gone, will they remember why we fought?" Minho watched the sunset, the light dancing on the waves. "They will remember that we gave them a choice. We warned them. They chose war and we chose to end it, not in genocide but in justice. That is what makes us human." "And what did we learn?" Taiyang asked. "That peace is worth fighting for," Minho replied, "and that the strongest warrior is the one who knows when not to kill. We could have destroyed them. We could have taken revenge for New Jeju. But we built something better. We built a galaxy where no one has to face what we faced." Taiyang nodded slowly. "Do you have regrets?" "I regret every death," Minho said. "Every soldier, every civilian, every being who died because we could not find a better way. But I do not regret fighting. They gave us no choice, and when the fighting was over, we chose mercy. That matters." 20 years after the Contact War ended, no major conflict had occurred in galactic space. There were disputes, tensions, disagreements, but they were resolved through the Galactic Council, through negotiation and compromise. The human fleet still patrolled the space lanes, still maintained order, but they rarely needed to fire a shot. Humanity had become what they had always claimed to be: peacekeepers, not conquerors. They protected the weak, stopped the strong from abusing their power, and ensured that every species had a voice in galactic affairs. The lesson had been learned, written in fire and blood and 3 million names on a memorial stone. Never mistake patience for weakness. Never mistake restraint for inability. Never mistake peace-seeking for surrender. Humanity had warned the stars. The galaxy had learned to listen. In the new galactic capital, built on neutral ground far from both Earth and Praxis, a monument stood in the central plaza. It was simple, just a stone pillar with words engraved in every galactic language. They pushed. We pushed back. We won, we forgave. Never again. Beneath the words was a list of every species in the galaxy, including humanity. Not as rulers and ruled, not as victors and defeated, but as equals in a new civilization built on the ashes of the old. Admiral Minho never saw the monument. He died peacefully in his sleep 2 years after it was erected, his wife beside him. His children and grandchildren gathered around. His last words were simple: "We did what was necessary. Now let them do better." The galaxy did. Not perfectly. Nothing involving so many species and cultures could be perfect. But they tried. They built something better than what had come before. And when new species joined the galactic community, they were shown the monument and told the story of the Contact War. They were told about a species that sought peace until they could seek it no longer, that fought with terrible efficiency when forced to fight, that won absolutely and then chose mercy, that built justice from the ashes of war. They were told about humanity, the species that warned the stars, then taught them to listen. And across the galaxy, in classrooms and academies and homes, young beings of every species learned the most important lesson of all: that strength without wisdom is just violence, that victory without mercy is just revenge, and that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to. Humanity had shown them the way. Now it was their turn to walk the path. The galaxy was learning, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. And somewhere in a small house by an ocean on a blue planet, an old soldier's ghost smiled and was content.